Welcome back, everybody, to the third episode of Primetime Draft Talk. It's, of course, Alex and Mason, and today we are going to be talking about sleepers. So, Mason, if you want to give a quick little intro to what we mean by sleepers, go have at it.
So obviously everyone has their own draft board. Alex and I kind of usually have some similar takes, but also some differing takes, obviously. So for us, our sleepers are guys that we have higher than most people on their boards. Like you could say, for example, right away you're seeing on Alex's big board, his sleeper list here, Dwayne Eskridge, we both have him as a first round prospect, while TDN has him as a late second round, early third round guy. So that's kind of a good example right off the bat, but that's pretty much what we would like to call our sleeper list.
Yep, just people who we have a significant jump on the big board. Obviously, there will be some guys, spoiler alert, like Brady Christensen, that a lot of people have probably higher than like people like TDN, but you never know. It's not like we know everybody's opinion, and we're kind of use TDN as a general gauge of the public. And by the way, I saw some people commenting on my channel earlier, the Hail Mary podcast, and they're like saying Cowboys can get Dwayne Eskridge in like the fifth. I was like, pause.
Nice.
It's like let's just chill for a second. I mean, if that happens, that'd be amazing, but it's not going to. But you know what? Let's just kick off the list because we're going to try to get through this in a timely manner. Obviously, last time I said like, oh, this video is going to be shorter than 30 minutes and it lasted 45. Love that. But obviously I have 25 guys and it's a combination of both Mason's and mine. We have some overlap. So he has a couple guys on his board as well, but he'll just be mentioning them. But starting off with my number one guy, Mason, of course, you can comment on this one. It's somebody, most of these guys I've done reports on. That's something I'm going to preface it with. So that's why I put a lot of these guys higher, is because I really do know that I'm a huge fan of them. It's Brevin Jordan. So obviously he's projected more mid-third, but like obviously teams probably might take him in the late second. I have him as a top 20 player in the class. I mean, it's ridiculous. You'll say it's ridiculous. I definitely know you will. But if you watch him play, people are going to be like, he's a wide receiver. This guy blocks better than Kyle Pitts. Hands down. As a guy who did a Kyle Pitts, like I'm a huge fan of Kyle Pitts, and I did his report for our website. Huge fan of him. But Brevin Jordan's route running is so smooth. Like we're talking about better route running than Kyle Pitts. It's insane. He runs better routes than Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts exponentially better hands. So overall prospect, I have still Kyle Pitts like number 3 in the draft, number 2 even. Like there's definitely some prestige to Kyle Pitts. I'm not saying Brevin Jordan's close to him, but I genuinely think he's a lot closer than what people think. After watching every single snap he plays. Again, his blocking is so good. Have you seen his blocking, Mason?
I haven't watched any tight ends besides Pitts yet, really. Unfortunately, it's 49 days until the draft, and I am freaking out. So
yeah. No, I mean, I recommend every single person ever to just search up Brevin Jordan versus, or else you can look up Miami versus, because we don't have all 22 tape. That's kind of the thing. Like the NFL luckily offers it with their Game Pass, but college it's a lot harder to get all 22 tape unless
I don't know how they haven't fucking done that yet, because
I know it'll be the best thing ever. Like, oh my god, I would pay 200 for all 22, like any day. Freaking paying 120. Well, actually I'm paying 60 because there's like a student half off thing for PFF premium stats. So if I'm willing to pay that for stuff where I was dying to see those like open throw stuff, like where it's like, oh, what's like the QBR on like tight window throws and stuff. Obviously they didn't have that, but I did talk to them. They said they were going to be potentially including it in the future. So I'm excited for that. But obviously I'd be so willing to do that. So obviously I don't know if he's not on your sleeper list, but he is on mine. Where would you project Brevin Jordan from what you know?
Late second, early third.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that I comped him to Jonnu Smith, but I think he's a better version of it with better blocking. I love Brevin Jordan. So my next guy is Elijah Molden. Of course, we'll go through your top guys. You'll just reference them when the time comes. Elijah Molden, another guy I just did a report on, and my God, I don't think I've seen a better corner than him. I haven't watched JC Horn though, so I haven't seen a better coverage corner than Elijah Molden. Like this guy's sensitivity for like his IQ and awareness on what's going around him, insane. I love it. I'm a huge fan. Really good in the run game too, especially for his size. I mean, you don't expect him to be blowing up people at like what? He's like 190. Yeah. So not really going to be that big of a factor, but still huge fan of Elijah Molden. Have any thoughts?
I obviously know your opinions on Elijah Molden. You've sent me so many videos, just like, oh my God, look at this tackle. I do want to note one thing that you call him the best slot corner in the draft. Maybe Aaron Robinson would like a few words there, but other than that, I think Molden he's creeping up draft boards too, so that's a good thing because slot corner is such a valuable position now. So
yeah, my buddy RJ Gillen literally said all of his scouts say that Elijah Molden is the only day one starting slot corner / nickel corner in the draft. So the NFL thinks Elijah's better than Robinson, but you've watched Robinson. I haven't. Also, I think Elijah's younger than Robinson by a couple of years. I think he's like 2 years younger.
Yeah.
I just love the potential. And he played strong safety pretty damn well as well. If you want to look at the PFF grades, he does a pretty good job there. But again, he shouldn't be a strong safety. But next, this is something that Mason and I have dear to our hearts, is Dwayne Eskridge. Elite separator, your stereotypical guy where if you're in Madden, you put a slant route on man coverage and then you just take it to the house literally every game. I don't think PFF actually came out with this stat, a tweet. He's the only player in college to not play a game without a touchdown. He scored a touchdown every single game he played. It's unreal. I don't know.
It's insane.
I know. He had some drops though. That's his only problem. He does his hands aren't the best, but he did make it a crazy acrobatic catch in one of the games I saw. It showed potential. That's big. Especially for his size. He's 5'9" and he's able to make some jump catches. I was like, damn. This guy's supposed to run the 4.3s too. So Pete, I remember seeing this guy's name for the first time in a mock draft that I was doing. I was like, who the hell is this guy? This Dwayne Eskridge? Like, get out of here. Then I watched him, I'm like, holy crap. And it was crazy. Love it. I'm gonna let you talk about Jamin Davis, not Jamin Davis, because this is something that's near and dear to your heart.
So a lot of us, you watch that franchise guy, Marcus Whitman. So another guy that's similar to that on YouTube that does a lot of draft content, he used to work for some type of NFL type staff. But Brett Coleman, he is another one of like Marcus. He does a lot of draft content as well. He put up his 5 sleepers for the draft. Mostly pretty much he titled it like mostly unknown draft prospects.
Yeah.
And Jamin Davis was one of them. I had seen him keep rising and rising and rising. Mm-hmm. So I signed up for the report right then and there. I like what I saw in the little blurbs that he put. And Davis has a early second round grade for me. So
love it.
Well, you don't like the linebacker class as much as I do because I've looked a lot into it because that's the one position.
My opinion's definitely shot up a lot. Okay. It shot up quite a bit.
But I watched Davis because if you watch the Packer podcast, you'll know that linebacker is my favorite position because of the lack of linebackers that the Packers have. But Davis, he can cover, he can stop the run, he's athletic, sideline to sideline ability, perfect fit for the new NFL that has mostly 2 linebacker sets. You're mostly in nickel a lot of the time. So Davis is an early second rounder for me. He's shooting upwards on TDN. I think he's 56, 55, somewhere around there on their predictive board now. But Davis is an early second round pick. He's above Baron Browning and Dylan Moses for me.
Easily for me too. Honestly, I wouldn't shame if the Buccaneers can't get back Levante David. I literally said I'd be perfectly fine. Huh?
They re-signed him.
They did?
I think so.
Today?
It was 2 days ago, I think. I think it was to a 2-year contract extension, I think.
Really?
I'm not so sure.
Okay, well, if that happened, then well, screw that. But there's no way. I thought 2 days ago they brought back Shaq Barrett. Not Shaq Barrett. They're still talking about Shaq Barrett.
It's 2-year, $25 million contract.
Well, that's a damn good deal. Well, then screw it. I would still even think about Jamin Davis on that squad, though. I would still think about it just because.
Devin White. Oh boy. Devin White, Levante David, and Jamin Davis.
That'd be an elite linebacker core.
They already are elite.
I know. It would just be unstoppable. Yeah. So obviously, I definitely want you to take the role on that. It's just, I know he's near and dear to your heart, and you know a lot more than I do about him. But only red flag is the amount of starts he's had. Correct? He's had 11?
11.
Yeah. So that's an issue, but he's shown out in the starts that he's had. That's a big plus. If you're able to look good in a few amount of starts, I mean, that at least shows that we haven't seen progression. That's the only thing.
He wasn't even supposed to be a starter this year. He only got into the lineup because of an injury. So, but when Kentucky needed a big play, he was there. So that's also another thing to note.
That's great. I mean, he got that starting job and probably just rolled with it. So definitely somebody who's who we're a big fan of. Somebody who I'm a big fan of is Keith Taylor. I have him a late second though. So for people who are like thinking I have like a first on Keith Taylor, no, he's projected around like early fourth to late third. So it's not that big of a jump at all. But there's no real faults in his game. He's just nothing spectacular. Has really good speed. He's never going to get burned. Really good size. And he has some solid coverage. So I think that he'd be a pretty good. I mean, if you had to use him as a number 2, I think it'd be fine. But maybe he would be a solid rotational corner that has upside, especially day one. He's somebody I think he can come in. He's probably going to be one of the best day one. Very polished, nothing really to complain about. I think he has an amazing bailout ability. That's something like for a team like the Niners who could use a corner maybe in the second if they trade back. That'd be a great target for them because it doesn't value that much in their system. So I think that if with that bailout, that he's not going to ever get torched. So big fan of Keith Taylor. Any words?
You like the Washington corners a lot, don't you?
I do. And it's not just I mean, I'm not a fan of Washington at all. That's the funny thing. I know some people are actually at Washington, but I mean, I'm not a fan of Washington. It's just watched them.
It's kind of similar to like there's a lot of schools this year that have multiple cornerbacks or defensive backs in general, like UCF, Washington, TCU. There's so many guys that you can pick from there. Their secondaries are just great.
Oh yeah. There's some schools. I mean, like TCU and UCF. They're feeding something to their corners, and they're having some really good coaching there. So big fan of that. So my next guy is Kyra Tonga, and there's not really much explanation needed here. He's a big ass dude who's projected in like the 6th round. He's just going to plug up the middle. I have a Damon Harrison comp on him just because, I mean, he's a big dude who makes an impact on the game. It's not something that you should draft very high. I would still put a 4th on him just because I'm not a fan of interior defensive linemen. Formerly being an interior defensive lineman, I know that you could just pick up these dudes later on and they'll just make an impact. Like getting Derek Brown last year for the Panthers, I was like, that's such a chicken move. But again, it is like the first pick of a new organization, a new regime. You know, you're not going to miss on Derek Brown. But I mean, I love Derek Brown though. For the record, even in my scouting report, I said just complete animal. He's a monster. So there's nothing wrong with him. I just thought like, ooh, what if they got this? You know.
Do you want to intertwine the other 2 BYU players that we have?
Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll bring them in. So we got Kyra Tonga here again, just a space eater. And then we got Brady Christensen and Dax Milne. So do we even need to explain Brady Christensen except his PFF grade? He's just consistent.
A lot of us have Alex Leatherwood as a guard, but a lot of us also have Christensen above him as a tackle prospect. And you can get that in the 4th round when you can get Leatherwood in the 1st or 2nd. So
no, I agree.
What I want to say about Milne is the receiver class is so stacked. You could put almost any late round receiver on your sleepers list and it would work out. But Milne is it was spectacular watching him and Zach Wilson go to work.
Oh, yeah. My only concern with Milne is, again, separation ability. He's not an elite route runner, but, dude, he has some great body control and some really good hands. So, I mean, for him to be on a team, I think the Jets should just take him later round. I mean, he could be potentially a good guy
to the Jets.
Huh?
If he goes to the Jets.
That'd be fun, man. I'd be fine with it. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, instant synergy right there. Plus, the late round pick. Like, are you going to miss? Like, even if you spend a 5th on Dax, even a 4th, I wouldn't mind it if you get it with Zach Wilson. Just instant chemistry. Those two are lethal together. The gunner guy, I forgot his name. Gunner something. That was the other wide receiver I've been bugging on him, BYU. He's pretty good too. Gunnar Romney, that's his name. Gunnar Romney. He was actually pretty good. He fell off, but he has some drop issues. But going back to my number 7 guy, I think you have him. Did you have this guy? You were thinking about putting him on your list.
I was thinking about putting him on here, yeah.
Osa Digizua. You can thank Marcus Whitman for being able to pronounce his name. He's an absolute beast. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. That was the first time I ever saw him before I even heard about him. I was like, who is this UCLA guy? I mean, you look at his size. I think, he's like 6'1", 6'2", 280. He's not that big, right? He's definitely not big. He's not small, but he's not big. So I think he definitely profiles as either a 4-3 D tackle or a 3-4 D end. He should not be over the nose at all. Yeah, he's definitely a 3 technique, but he just uses his length so well. it's surprising. He's able to just keep these centers, these guards at bay with his arms, and it's not like he has like Kevin Durant arms down to his freaking kneecaps, but it's like damn, he uses his arms, his length really well. And for a guy who's projected 4th round, I have him as an early 2nd. Like this guy's a monster. I think he's my second tackle in the draft.
I think TDN has him around the 2nd, 3rd round gap, if I'm right. Or no, it's 3rd, 4th gap, I think, right?
Yeah, the 3rd, 4th gap. Yeah. I think they have it as an early. There's
a lot of guys there that I like and on that verge.
Yeah, no.
There was another one down below on your list too. That is another one of my guys. So.
Oh yeah. So obviously we're gonna just talk quickly about Tyson Campbell. I think that it's just TDN who's dropping him on their list just because he's grabby. I mean, he's young, athletic, has all the size, and is really good in coverage when he's. I mean, if you get him to grab less, like we saw the Super Bowl, the NFL is starting to get a little bit more lenient on this grabbing issue.
Oh yeah.
Like they're. I mean, we saw how many flags went off and people got pissed. So genuinely, I think that the NFL is going to tweak it back a little bit on the defense on the flag.
They let those grabs go unless you're Kevin King in the NFC Championship game.
Oh yeah. So I think that if you just tweak it a little bit, like he's the 3rd best man corner in the class, in my opinion. He's really talented guy right there. I mean, he locked up Kyle Pitts, but Kyle Pitts could just go over him. Like this is skin tight coverage right here. Yeah. So I mean, again, I'm a huge fan of his athleticism. Do you want me to talk about Darden since I did the report?
You can go ahead with that one.
Yeah. So obviously I also did a Tyson Campbell report. That's why I know a lot about him. But Darden, I mean, I remember one of my subs told me like, dude, check out this Jalen Darden guy. I'm like, God, like these guys. There was a guy who he mentioned about 500 names to me, by the way, of all draft prospects, pretty much. I was like, oh my goodness. But this was the first one he ever mentioned. And I was like, it's a North Texas wide receiver. Who cares? And I started watching. I'm like, okay. I mean, I realized him. I actually had him written down on my board because I watched him versus SMU. I was like, oh, dude, North Texas, we blew him out too. And he still showed up. So I started watching him. It's like, dude, he might not be the best route runner in the world. He's not going to shake and bake and be the best route runner. He has solid enough routes, but don't imagine him as an Antonio Brown. So if you get him with the ball in his hands or have him going down the field, he's deceptively fast as well. That's going to be perfect. That's really going to be perfect. I'm a huge fan of it. And again, he's just with the ball in his hands, he can vary his speed so much. It confuses the hell out of defenders. You can see it. They will take one pursuit angle and just like be totally off. And it's not them taking the wrong one because you'll be like, oh, he was moving at a speed where that would be perfect. They just it goes. I'm like, oh, damn. So just big fan of Jalen Darden. Any other words?
What round did you have on him?
I had a mid-second.
Okay.
I had a mid-second.
And TDN has him like 5th, 6th round.
They have him. He's in the 7th round most of mine because that's usually how the board falls with how many wide receivers are available. But this is one of my guys here, Damar Hamlin. So I was watching Shi Smith, I believe. It might have been Shi Smith. It was one of the wide receivers, and I saw Damar Hamlin just light up these guys. Like it was some type of slot. And I realized it's like they have him as a safety. Why is he guarding a slot wide receiver? Turns out he played all of his snaps in slot corner. So they're just putting him as a safety as like a nickel back or like more like a money back. But I mean, dude, this guy, he flies, really good tackling. He took down Amari Rodgers. And he was really good against him, which is a big surprise. Obviously, Pitt did not fare too well against Clemson, but I mean, it was surprising to me the way he played. He's very, very, very high IQ. He has a good work ethic, and then he even played well in the one-on-ones in the Senior Bowl. Like, it's pretty good. Any other words on him?
I haven't watched a lot on him. I like a lot of safeties, though. There's no real top safety that's a first-round guy, but there's a lot of depth there. You can get your guy in a class. We'll be talking about another safety later that both of us like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, just the one thing that I think this draft is going to be telling to both of us as scouts is – are we just too high on these prospects? Like, do we fall in love with them too much to where we're unrealistic projecting them? Because maybe the NFL is that good where really good prospects don't do anything. And that could be the case. Most likely, Damar Hamlin won't take a snap in the NFL. There's a good chance. He could be a 7th rounder UDFA and just doesn't take a snap. Could be a 3rd rounder and could start. Like, we don't know, especially with how teams work out. That's why I'm trying to talk with RJ quite a bit on these guys because I'm like, am I seeing what they see? I see Rashad Weaver do one move. I'm like, what is that? And I message him and he's like, yeah, dude, he's pretty damn good. So I'm like, okay. But then it's like you have this feeling where it's like, oh, we can just plug him into a hole and they'll be perfect. But these guys are replacement level. That's the problem. It's like you see them so good, they play so well that it's hard to think of them as not being able to start in the NFL. That's the truth. That's how good the talent is in the NFL, whereas these guys who are really talented will be taken the 6th round and not even play. And it's just we criticize a lot of NFL players. We just gotta realize you gotta realize how good the talent is there. So next, this is a guy I don't know if did you have got this guy on your list?
I do not, but I've heard. I have a lot of good things have been said about him.
Yeah. So Deontay Smith, I think just like Leatherwood, he should be a guard. Saw his Senior Bowl reps. He did pretty well as a tackle in the Senior Bowl, but I'm gonna be honest. Looking at his numbers, he lets up quite a bit of pressures, especially on the outside. If you're going as East Carolina, could be a quarterback's fault. That's something that that PFF grade doesn't factor in. Is was it the quarterback's fault or was it the lineman's fault? But I saw him play a guard, and man, he looks so good, so good. Big fan of Deontay Smith there. Try to get he's liked quite a bit of my tweets about him, but hoping one day we could possibly bring him onto this channel or my own channel. But of course that might not happen. We'll never know. But Deontay Smith is somebody I'm pretty happy about. I mean, he did really well, and I think he projected himself into day 2 talks.
Oh yeah. It's a really good tackle class, and he's made a name for himself at East Carolina. There's a lot of small school guys in this class that have made their names out there this year. So Senior Bowl.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, Senior Bowl was a big thing. There's a good trend in here where there's a lot of seniors on this list that just lit it up in the Senior Bowl. And it shows what they can do because like at the Senior Bowl, they're like, dude, this is my last showcase. So we're seeing them at their best. So we saw guys like Creed Humphrey look pretty damn good. And if you guys want to see my report, I did kind of rag on him, but I think that the Senior Bowl showed what he could be. That was another reason why I actually even dropped him down even further on my round list is because it's like, why didn't you play like that before? Like we see flashes of Rashad Weaver play the way he did in the Senior Bowl, in those Senior Bowl one-on-ones. When I looked at Creed Humphrey, I just didn't see that. That was just a different person. And I love him at guard. I gave him a round 3 guard grade. I mean, he looks pretty damn good as a guard. But again, with that, to put it in Mike's words, as he suggested to me, heavy concern on the motor. It was a big concern to me. But speaking of a guy who is more talent concern on the boundary, that's Shaun Wade. Shaun Wade was supposed to be a top 10 pick this year. I had him number 3 to the Lions on like the way too early mock that I did. That was my first ever way too early mock. Number 3 to the Lions is a slot corner. Fun fact. And I think that he just can't play outside corner and he can't play press, and that's okay. Why doesn't he just he was a game changer when he got knocked out of that Clemson Ohio State game 2 years ago? The game changed. Like it flipped. He's an impact player as a slot corner. And I think people forgot about that. You just got to check his ego. You got to make sure that he's not saying like, I'm not going to play slot. That's a big thing. That's a big question mark. So I understand why people would drop him. But if he's saying like, dude, I'm fine playing just slot corner, this guy could be the steal of the draft.
Yeah, you can also play him at safety if you really want to, like a strong safety type hybrid nickel slot strong safety. But he made himself look like a fool this year trying to play a boundary corner when he would have been a first round pick last year if he would have just come out. The Cornell Powell route against him in the semifinals or whatever it was not good.
That hurt. I definitely agree. That definitely hurt. So next guy who I'm a pretty big fan of is Trey McKitty, which our lovely new draft analyst, who's an awesome guy, Cameron Nia, of course, he took the scouting report from me. So that hurt. But he's doing a great job for us. And he's liking my posts, which I love that. I love the support from him. Glad that he's on the squad. And hopefully he and I can probably do a collab or something for the 49ers because I see from his profile pic.
He's a 49ers fan.
He's a big 49ers fan. So Trey McKitty, again, another Senior Bowl guy. You just saw him run routes and it looked good. He's a good late round guy. And if you want to get him in the late 3rd, that's okay. I'm fine with that. He's projected as like a mid 4th to mid 5th. Like I think that's his range. But I mean, I'm fine with him taking him in 3rd. He looks
I've seen him even go later than that on TDN's mock simulator. But it's a good top heavy tight end class, but the middle rounds there's like Hunter Long and then who. So
Tommy Trumbull.
He really made himself known at the Senior Bowl. And then speaking of the Senior Bowl, let's talk about the next guy.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna let you go on this. This is your guy.
So I watched Demetric Felton before the Senior Bowl as a running back because that's what he played in college. He played wide receiver at high school, and he also played wide receiver reps at the Senior Bowl where he dominated. All of his routes were really crisp. I had him as a third rounder at running back. So if you want like a James White, an Nyheim Hines, Christian McCaffrey, even if you want to say McCaffrey, because that's really high praise, but Felton will give you that James White Hines role. Like I comped him to Hines. He's someone that I want the Packers to take in the third round. We even talked about that on our second round mock last week, but Felton is such a Swiss Army knife. You could put him back on returns, running back, receivers, screens, anything like that. I love Felton.
Dude, when I saw him for the first time as a kick returner, I put him down on my list. And I said, this guy's draftable if you only use him as a kick returner.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw him play running back. I'm like, ooh. And then I saw him play wide receiver. I was like, woo. I was like, who is this guy? Like, no, I'm a huge fan of Demetric. From the moment I think I saw him in his true sophomore year, I mean, I was a fan of him. He's definitely a dynamic weapon.
He was maybe one of the best receivers at the Senior Bowl this year, besides Amari Rodgers. So
didn't he torch Damar Hamlin in that route?
Yeah,
that was like, speaking of Damar Hamlin, he couldn't handle Demetric Felton, but I mean, Demetric Felton is he's different. He's just different, man. Next guy is somebody who I haven't really seen as much, but I mean, I cannot disrespect Jimmy Morrissey. I've heard so many good things about him, and for TDN to put him as a 7th to undrafted, that's just gross to me. So, no disrespect to TDN. Obviously, I don't know if do they have an actual full report? They do. So I'm very surprised they put him that late. We'll see why. I'll probably do that in my own time, but I mean, just for the value, it's a potential center, especially with teams that need center. Like, there's multiple teams: the Steelers, the Chiefs. Let's see. Even I heard Ryan Jensen might even be potentially on his way out from Tampa. I mean, obviously they have cap issues. There's plenty of teams. Bottom line. So I mean, getting a guy like Jimmy Morrissey, I put him maybe like a mid-4th on him.
I got for our 7th-round mocks. I actually took him with a Dolphins last pick in their draft, which was a 6th-round pick because their center is a free agent this year. So he was actually a late addition to the Senior Bowl. He only went there for like on a 1-day notice, and he was down there. So
that's showing that his character. He's like, you know what, I'm willing to take it. So big fan of that. And plus, that's a great pick, by the way, for the Dolphins. What's up?
Oh yeah. Before you want to go to the next one, I have the other Tulane edge rusher on my list as well. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. What is his name? Patrick Johnson or something like that?
Johnson.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything of Pat Johnson, so I couldn't put him on my list. But I did see some snaps from Cam Sample. Wasn't he at the Senior Bowl as well?
I think so. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was. But Cam Sample, to me, I mean, this is something that Marcus Whitman might have influenced me a little bit on. He called him potentially the next Khalil Mack. I'm like, let's relax. Let's relax. But I saw his reps, and he looks pretty damn polished. I'd be willing to have him as a backup rotational guy day one with potential. You talk about your guy.
It's just similar to both Tulane edge rushers. You're going to get a guy that you can use as a rotational guy early on. So, again, another small school type guy you can find later on that'll provide some depth or some immediate starting if you are lacking that edge rush depth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, as a guy I go to SMU, so I watch all of our games. We should have destroyed Tulane. We won by a field goal. We had the number 15 team in the nation at one point 2 years ago. And we could barely beat Tulane. I saw the pass rush just get in over and over again. And Shane, all love to him. We just couldn't deal with it that well. For as powerful as our offense was, we just couldn't deal with it. So big props to these guys who are very underrated, in my opinion.
Speaking of another small school guy.
Ooh, one of my favorites here. Only reason I put Cam Sample above him is just because of that name drop by Marcus as, of course, Khalil Mack. But I think that Ellerson Smith, I mean, you guys want to see him. He's not 6'6.5". I mean, I've seen him stand next to 6'6" guys. He's taller. Like unless you want to say like, oh, the guys who are rated 6'6" are probably like 6'5", 6'4". This guy's actually 6'6.5" or 6'7". Like, he towers. He has such good length as well. And if he just is able to get maybe a little bit better balance, highlighting the wrong guy, then I think that he could light it up. He is just a pure prospect that he's raw as all get go. But if you're able to stick him on a team with like, let's just say the Rams are just like, you know what? Why not? And Aaron Donald teaches this guy some things. Holy crap. This guy could be the next Ed Too Tall Jones type territory. Like, this guy is just unbelievable length. Do you have anything else to say about him?
No, you showed out at the Senior Bowl. Like, again, so many guys on here. Our list is just Senior Bowl filled.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of a guy, he was at the Senior Bowl, actually, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Ben Skoranek. I mean, I just watched all the Eichenberg tape, right? So obviously you guys can check that out on, as well as all of course, Mason's scouting reports on the website. But Ben Skoranek, I mean, wow. He's ranked like 400 or something on TDN. It's like, this dude is crazy. It's so weird because he looks like he sucks, but he's so fast. He's lanky. He has some pretty damn good hands. He has good ball tracking, and he's pretty fast. Like, he's pretty good with the ball in his hands too. It's so weird because he doesn't look like he should, but he does against like teams like Clemson. These teams that should be just completely shutting him down because he is a lower end wide receiver. He's lighting up. And if you look at his size, he's 6'3", 211. He's pretty old. He comes from Northwestern, right?
Who?
Skoranek.
I don't know where he transferred from.
Oh yeah, here you go. We got Northwestern. Yeah, no, he's different. He's different. I'm telling you, it's not somebody I'd put in like the 4th round or anything like that. But if you're in the 6th round and you just want a guy who's pretty big, who can use his length pretty well, Skoranek could be a good target. It's a guy who could be even a UDFA. Honestly, my Steelers, I would love Ben Skoranek on there. He looks like a guy who will really work. Plus, we love Notre Dame now, but it's like, he's scary. He's scary good. I don't know. Just saying. Any other thoughts on him? I know you probably haven't watched him too much.
No.
Yeah.
I haven't really watched anything on him.
This is your guy right here, Jamar Jefferson. I like him, but you definitely know a lot more about him.
Again, I'm a Packers fan. I saw that the Packers had a visit with him, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch that a little bit, and I ended up loving him. He's so fast. Like, TDN has him comped to Kareem Hunt, which I don't usually do a lot of comps for mine, but that name alone is kind of a lot. I know you're shaking your head, but Jefferson can catch out of the backfield. He's quick. He can actually go in between the tackles. For us, that's a perfect 1-2 punch with AJ Dillon and Jefferson.
I love that.
We actually got Jefferson in the 5th or 6th round in our Packers mock earlier this week. I have him as an early 4th round grade, so that's almost a 2-round difference there that you're getting him at. But that's Oregon State you have really only 2 guys that you're looking at this year, Jefferson and Rashed. Yeah. But Jefferson is so good.
He is. He's a home run hitting threat. That's why I didn't like the comp to Kareem Hunt, just because Kareem doesn't have that great of speed. You see him get caught up by dudes. So, that's the only part I don't like about it. Obviously, he can definitely hit the holes and do everything. I haven't seen enough of him, so that's why I definitely let you talk more about him. But from what I have seen, what I've heard, what I've read, it's not Kareem Hunt. But if you maybe want to talk about Nick Chubb's breakaway speed, maybe. But I wouldn't not put a 4th round grade and say that they're Kareem Hunt. It's like, maybe if you want to put the Walmart version of a Kareem Hunt or a Nick Chubb.
Well, Hunt was drafted around that range, so.
Oh yeah, no, I'm saying obviously if there was a redraft, he'd be taken possibly in the 1st. So yeah, Jamar Jefferson's a stud. Obviously, we talked about Brady Christensen and Dax Milne. And again, I'm gonna let you talk about these 2 guys because these 2 are close to your heart. So go on ahead.
So our Darius Washington, he's the other TCU safety besides Morig. He's
Merrick.
Smaller. Merrick, same thing. Morig, same thing. Washington is 5'8", 5'9", so he's on the smaller side. You can play him at slot corner, nickel corner. He's tough. He's a good run stopper. You can play free safety if you really want him to. He's just really versatile. He's 2nd behind Merrick on my big board for my safeties by only about 0.5, 0.25, something like that. Wow. So that's an early 2nd round grade. And there's, again, another one of the guys that I like on the verge of the 3rd and 4th round turnaround.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a beast. With the comps of, I don't mean to continue shouting out Marcus, but with the comps of LaMarcus Joyner, like step for step.
Who recently got cut, by the way, too. So
it was.
He got cut.
Oh yeah, I saw it on yours. But like LaMarcus literally said, he was in a Washington uniform. So obviously he meant TCU uniform.
Yeah.
But I mean that's pretty high praise, especially with how LaMarcus Joyner used to be looked at. And I think that's what you guys are probably more referencing is what he used to be. That's what his potential is, rather than what he is exactly now. You can clarify that if
I didn't have a comp. Again, I don't usually like doing comps because, I mean, it's kind of easier. That's like a way to picture things, but you can't really put a guy into just one thing because there's so many different traits of these players that you can, if you do one thing wrong, like a speed wise or route running wise, they'll be like, oh, his route running is better than that, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But I want to get on to the next guy too, because he's another one of my guys. Brett Coleman, again, another one of shout outs here, but Gillespie was also in that video. In the video, you can see there's so much to like about Gillespie. He shut down Kyle Pitts in one-on-ones. He only had like a catch for 9 yards against Gillespie in man coverage. He shut down Najee Harris at the goal line not once but twice. He had an open field tackle on Jalen Waddle. He had a pass breakup against Deontay Smith. Who else can you say that about in this class right now from a safety perspective?
Not many.
No one.
Yeah.
But he's a good tackler. He's a good run support guy. He has good zone coverage ability. He's fast. There's a lot to like about him. He's actually another, like we've been talking about, how there's so many schools that have multiple defensive backs in this class.
Yep.
Joshua Bledsoe is another safety from Missouri who is actually ranked higher above Gillespie and on TDN's big board. But yeah, I would take Gillespie in the late third, mid third, somewhere around that range, and we got him in the 6th round in our Packers mock too.
Yeah, no. From what I've seen as well, because I did the Nick Bolton report, those safeties are the real deal. Like the corners, maybe not so much at Missouri, but the safeties, they definitely seem to know what they were doing. I'll put it that way. So I was just gonna, because we were talking about comps. I mean, my comp was almost spot on with Tyson Campbell. I put him as Byron Jones. I mean, a more raw version of the raw Byron Jones. But when I watched them play, both of them played step for step the exact same. It was kind of crazy to me. Just wanted to put that out there. These last two guys are more of my guys on the board. Quoni Dang, again, this is just based on positioning and potential. Quoni Dang is just known as a guy he's a good locker room guy, and he's a pretty good athlete. If you want to look at him, 6'6", 250 pounds. I mean, you see that, and it's like, whoa. If you use him in the right scheme, I mean, hell, if Saleh is able to bring this guy in and be able to have him grow under CJ Mosley, yeah, that would be a great thing. But he's gonna be a late round pickup. He's already scheduled to be in like the 6th round. So I mean, I would probably take him maybe late 4th when you're willing to take shots on people. If you have a fully loaded roster, I would even say the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a pretty loaded roster. If you fix those positions in the first 3 rounds, take Quoni Dang. It's worth it. Or the Cowboys, where it's like, well, I mean, we've taken enough positions and we don't have anything at linebacker where Sean Lee used to be. It's like, well, you never know. So, I mean, again, it's just pure potential here and somebody who's not going to screw up your locker room. Any thoughts on him?
I haven't watched a lot of linebackers besides the ones I've had. Obviously, there's so much you could talk about with linebackers. Like I have another one on my list that we'll get to hopefully shortly. Kind of run through that quickly because we're kind of going through a lot of time already.
We're pushing the time. Obviously, another guy who I was thinking about putting here is Pete Werner. I'm a big fan of Pete Werner. He just destroyed Pat Freiermuth. But other guy, just Chuba Hubbard. I think people are like putting him in the 4th or 5th round now. It's like, guys, he's 1 year away from having a 2,000-yard season being put in the late 1st. It's like he had maybe an off year, and that's okay. So I pushed him down to maybe a mid 3rd. But just chill on the hate for Chuba. You know, he definitely has some good potential. But let's go into your guys's. Obviously, Mason has it written down. So
I have it on TDN too. So if you want to.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Okay. Just like the 12 guys that we haven't mentioned so far. So there's a couple of guys that you'll see on this list that is similar to Alex's list. We have Jermar Jefferson, Gillespie, all those guys are on there. But number 1 for me on my sleepers list is obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have him right now as my 17th ranked player in the class. I think he's wide receiver 6. I have him as a mid-first round prospect. This wide receiver class is loaded, so I have a lot of first round guys on my list. But St. Brown is obviously the brother of Equanimous St. Brown for the Packers. They are nothing alike. St. Brown, you can put him in the slot, you can put him outside. There wasn't really many outside reps, unfortunately, but I used one of my only comps this scouting cycle on him for Keenan Allen for St. Brown. So there's a mid first on him as compared to a lot of guys have him as a late second, early third round guy. But if you pair him back up with Michael Pittman in Indianapolis, that's a great fit for what they need. So we're going to skip on Jefferson and Gillespie. We're going to go down to Garrett Wallow, who I don't know if you even really know much about him. He's another TCU defender. Watching the TCU safeties, because I did both of my reports on them, Wallow stood out as the interior force at their linebacker position. He had a Senior Bowl invite, but he was one of the only guys that had a positive COVID test, so he couldn't compete there. You could get him in the 6th, 7th round, and I think I haven't done my report on him yet. He'll be shortly, but I think I might have him as 4th, 5th round, somewhere around there. So that's a steal at his price. We both like Benjamin St. Juste, I think. He showed out at the Senior Bowl. I didn't know who he was before the Senior Bowl. So again, another Senior Bowl guy that just stood out. You can get him in the 3rd round. I actually might like the Packers taking him in the 3rd round if we don't get one in the first 2 rounds.
That'd be good.
I did my report on Marquez Stevenson in the last couple of days. Kind of a BS kind of comp, but Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a very good comp for him. Speed guy, deep threat, kind of some drop issues as well, but how much of that is really on Stevenson compared to the awful quarterback play that Houston had this year in the last few years?
Well, Tune wasn't that bad. Come on. I mean, I will say this. Technically second, because I watched TCU versus K-State first. But the first actual game I watched fully through as in person was SMU versus Houston. And there was a long ball from De'Aaron King, a 50-yard deep ball from De'Aaron King to Marquez Stevenson. Most beautiful pass I've ever seen in my entire life. Just saying. Big fan of both of those guys.
King is fine, but Tune is meh. Trill Williams, another Syracuse, again, another school that has so much talent in their secondary. Trill Williams, I know you're a big fan of him, so I'm kind of surprised that you didn't have him on your sleepers list.
There's too many sleepers on mine, as we can see.
But him paired with Melifano and then Cisco at safety was a very, very good secondary for Syracuse. I know you aren't really the big fan of him from what I know, but Reid Blankenship, I know MJ loves him as a late round guy at safety. A 6th, 7th round prospect, maybe even undrafted free agent if we like to talk about those guys. But Blankenship is another guy that I plan on doing a scouting report on. There was a lot of guys from TDN that actually liked him, or I don't know where, but a lot of guys actually seem to like him, and no one's really talking about him besides the select few that I know.
Yeah, no, I like Reid.
And then we talked about the Tulane edge rushers already. Teron Jackson, we got him with our last pick in the Packers 7th round mock this last week.
He's good.
Another 7th round undrafted free agent Verge guy that is better than that. I think there's a lot of depth in this draft class that a lot of guys will be pushed down because of the depth at receiver. And speaking of receiver, Austin Watkins completely showed out at the Senior Bowl. He was one of the best guys that actually played at the Senior Bowl. You have I'm tripping on the guy's name, but the Clemson receiver, Amari Rodgers, there we go, was Amari Rodgers and Feldman were the steals of the show, but Watkins had another great week where he just separated really well. Crisp route runner. Kind of want to get to the last 2 guys here because we're running out of time pretty quick. Ramondre Stevenson, he was another guy that got a late invite to the Senior Bowl that a lot of people have him high on as like a 3rd, 4th round guy, and TDN has him in the mid-day 3 range. Same thing with Drake Jackson even. A good center prospect that you could really plug in and play right away if you need that right away.
I'll bounce back on that. I was a huge proponent of Drake Jackson. I mean, I still like him as a later round prospect, but his Senior Bowl one-on-ones weren't good. I mean, he got driven back. And it was like a little bit scary to me, I'm going to be honest. But, I mean, I was even a fan of Creed Humphrey way over Drake Jackson in those reps. And again, you guys heard about that. But obviously there's probably even more guys I would even put on the list. But we're just draft guys. We fall in love with these guys. A lot of these guys won't get even a start in the NFL. They might not even get put on a roster. But, I mean, we see the potential. And, again, the problem with it is a lot of these guys require time. And we're starting to go into an NFL that time is no longer an option. I mean, hell, Elway became Elway, like the Elway in the final years of his career in his 30s. That's not something that can happen really anymore. So you need kind of stuff now, but obviously if a team with depth takes him, that's going to be so beneficial. Teams with depth really, like, if these guys want to be benefited, they need to, or beneficial to a squad, they need to be immediate depth players. So that's going to be the ultimate goal right there. But that's going to be the video, guys. So I hope that you guys do enjoy. Obviously, it's probably a pretty damn long video, but we got through it. Definitely more prospects to talk about. Stay tuned next week. We'll probably go into like the running backs, tight ends, or wide receivers. You guys will see next week on Saturday, 9 a.m., 5 p.m., whenever the heck it comes out. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll let Mason say goodbye too.
I want to mention one last guy here, obviously, but Quinn Miners.
Yep.
Obviously, day 2 guy who no one really knew about. Just want to shout out a guy from local Wisconsin area. So that's pretty much all I want to say for the episode. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Peace.